Hi, here we are. This is week 8. Let's go to the course site and see what we've got. And here it is, week 8, Leaders and Organizational Culture. I hope you're going to find this as interesting. The reason I think it's so important for us is because this is where we're almost at the point where Shine tells us how he's been leading up to this for 16 chapters, and we have, I think, the last up through chapter 16 today, this week. And he's really telling us, after discussing organizational midlife, he's going to give us the tip. He's going to tell us exactly what the end of this symphony, or at least the end of the major movement of this symphony, is next week, when he tells us how you actually do achieve organizational change with good leaders. So this is about leadership. And it's also about far more than that. We're going to be looking at the wisdom of crowds, and getting a sense of the role of founders and leaders. We'll mention crowdsourcing, which is something I'm sure you come across in terms of getting groups together in some particular purpose, sometimes for money, sometimes for meeting, and for some civic purpose. And let me just take you down to these to the assignment, because that's what I'd like to spend most of the time on this brief lecture. The Wisdom of Crowd chapter, you'll find that easily in our book, our website, I mean. And this Cato reading, it's called "It's Not Culture." I hope you'll go to it. In fact, let me go to it now. This is what it looks like. You might say, "Oh, just another thing by Professor Robinson," but he's basically saying, all right, this was about 8 or 9 years ago. He said, I'm going to put all my ideas, some of which we've been reading, I'm going to put these ideas up there for you to think about. And so a bunch of these, some of them very well-known people, came back and said, I've thought about it and I hate it. I don't agree with you a bit. In fact, there's an article here by Gregory Clark called "A Plague on Both Your Houses." He's very unhappy with some of the other essayists. So I think you'll find this, you don't have to read the whole thing. I think if you just go through it, kind of interestingly, and he even cites at the end of this article a George Mason economist, Peter Boettke. So if you will just take it as kind of a recreational jaunt or romp through some of this material, I think you'll enjoy it, and also find it to be very, very, very helpful as well. And then the Simon Sinek lectures. One of them is "Why Great Leaders Make You Feel Safe." That's only 5 million views, but "How Great Leaders Inspire Action" is one of there are thousands of TED lectures. This is one of the 10 most popular, over almost 25 million views on this one. And it's a very simple idea. It's not long like all the TED lectures. He basically says these are some of the characteristics that really allow people to bring you in to their leadership orbit. And he picks 3 leaders. You'll never guess who they are, and describes how they have been so successful in doing just that. And then there's the David Hampton presentation. He's one of the people in the class who has been, he picked, I tried to give you as many choices as I could for these topics, and he picked the Wisdom of Crowds. I sort of suggested, but he did a great job on it, just as so many of you have done on this presentation assignment. And I'm going to take you to that right now, because I think you'll find it not only interesting, but also very relevant to the things that we're studying about in the class right now. He selected, he actually shows some of the very relevant and I think significant things that we need to know about crowd theory. He's basically saying a group like our own class, this is Surowiecki who wrote the book, a group like our class, which has these 4 conditions: diversity, independence, decentralization, and aggregation. He explains those in the presentation. We are going to do a better job of predicting who's going to be President of the United States, or what the Academy Award winner is going to be, or a whole bunch of other things that you might think it might sound almost occult to you that that's what's possible, but it really does seem to work that way. And then this is the famous jelly bean experiment, which we've actually done in class, but it's basically the idea that if you get enough people to guess in the jelly beans and you average them out, you're going to get very, very close. Maybe never get the right answer, but get so close to it on average that it's going to be just as good. And the strange thing is, Sir Francis Galton discovered this a long time ago, which is in Surowiecki's book, that it can be used in all sorts of other, and I don't care so much about horse racing, football, stock market, or Wikipedia, but I do care a lot about presidential elections, and I know you do too. So let me just flash this one up so you can take a good look at it. This is the famous chart that compares the Iowa electronic market, which is really just a very small computer. It's a laptop, pretty powerful laptop, sitting in an office at the University of Iowa, and they've programmed it in such a way that people from all over the world can come in and, you might say, bet on candidates, on issues, whatever it happens to be. And year in and year out, they always absolutely do better. Clean the clock is a term I used to like to use. Clean the clock of anybody, any of their possible competitors. So as you can see from this diagram right here, the IEM did much better than Fox. This was on the 2008 presidential election, on predicting the share that Obama and McCain would get of the vote. They came closer, far closer than Fox, NBC, ABC, and you see Gallup and Zogby were way out. They were just way, way out in their predictions. And we've seen that in several other examples, far more recently in Europe and even in the United States, when Eric Cantor in Virginia, his election was so botched in terms of the predictions. So my point is that this is a very interesting issue. It has some considerable, particularly for the C and the O in COT, a lot of implications that I hope you'll find useful and interesting. And now to finish up the assignment, how to start a movement. That's Derek Sivers. That is an assignment that I think you're going to find very interesting. A lot of students, I don't usually repeat these, but a lot of students have found this so interesting. I've used it again this semester. It's short and it's interesting, and I think it's very, very valid for the kind of things that we're doing in the class. And finally, the Google's DNA. That's a series of videos, very short videos about, as you know, big companies, some organizations, some military organizations, and many others, religious, many others. They have a culture, and this is about Google's culture. There's quite a few of you are interested in Google's culture, Amazon's culture, and many of the other IBM, many other companies, and each one of them has their own. And this is a little bit about Google, so I think you'll find it useful. So let me sum up. We are now halfway through the course. I'm really pleased with what we're doing. I think we've got some very good results so far. The presentations were great. I'm going to be sending out grades, evaluations on the on all of the posts for the first 7 weeks sometime during this week. And I'll see you for our face-to-face. That'll be the 24th. And I look forward to continuing to work with you. I think you're doing fine work in the course, and I appreciate your cooperation and also your continued interest in this material. See you soon.